In the Halo universe, ODSTs are some of the toughest soldiers the UNSC has to offer, aside from the enhanced, godlike Spartans. But I find it very strange that in Halo Infinite, there is no mention of them at all in the campaign, and multiplayer has barely even a single nod to them even existing in the first place. Hi everyone, I'm Kiv, and today I wanted to go through something that I noticed when playing through Halo Infinite's campaign. I'm a little bit embarrassed it took me this long to realize it, and it was about my second or third playthrough I asked myself the question, wait a second, why are there no ODSTs in this game? So today, I wanted to talk about what we do see in Halo Infinite as references to ODSTs, and then also suggest some reasons for why they might be missing in action. ODSTs are great because they add a really cool personality to the Halo series, and are very different from the silent but deadly Spartans that we usually play as. They tell a story from a more boots-on-the-ground perspective, and I, like many other fans, definitely miss them. So let's start off by going through the references that we do actually see to ODST soldiers. We know from the Halo Infinite campaign there are a couple of Marines that actually say some similar lines to some of the members of the Alpha 9 squad from the ODST campaign. Full credit goes to Duquesne, who actually noticed this. I'll have a link in the description to his channel, but it's a really cool one-liner from Dutch, and I have to say, it's things like this that just make the ODSTs so iconic, because they just have one-liners like these.
I'm gonna rip off your arms and play bongos on your head.
Aside from that, there is also an audio log where a first lieutenant is asking for help from the ODSTs. However, there is no response that we know of, and it basically sounds as if this ODST is dead. I have a bit of a theory about this, which we'll talk about later. I was able to find one obscure reference to the ODSTs in multiplayer, and it's not the armor. I actually found something different, but at the same time, it is a little bit weird. On the map Streets, there's a graffiti mural which says on it, ODST, we remember. I find the wording of that to be very strange, because it says, we remember, almost like it's a tribute to ODSTs. It's almost like the game itself is acting as if they don't exist anymore, like there's none around. But hold on, cause it gets even stranger. The area of the map that has this piece of artwork is blocked off by a gate, and it's almost as if it's a hidden message from the developers. It's really puzzling to have this message and mural and graffiti in the actual map, but not have it in an area where you can actually see it. You have to go into theater mode to be able to actually view the damn thing properly. So it all feels a little bit weird and a little bit strange. But unfortunately, that's where the references end, because we don't have anything else. There's no ODST soldiers that you can fight alongside, there's no mention of them in any dialogue, there's not even an ODST plushie as an Easter egg. Now I bet at this point there's a couple of you that are sitting there saying, get a load of this guy. He reckons there's no ODSTs in Infinite. What an idiot. There weren't any in Halos 4 and 5 either. And yes, you're 100% right. But the whole idea of Halo Infinite was to be a spiritual reboot of the franchise, and they could have easily reintroduced ODSTs into the game, but they didn't. So what was the story reason for taking them out of Halos 4 and 5 in the first place? Let's get into it. We do know that the Spartan IV Program absorbed a lot of members from the ODST ranks. This is because after the Human Covenant War was finished, the Spartan program had way better funding and technology than ever before, and it allowed adults to undergo the augmentations needed to become Spartans. So because of this, we could see a lot of ODSTs becoming Spartan 4s. The best example of this is Buck himself, who took the remaining members of Alpha 9 to become Spartan 4s. However, this doesn't mean that ODSTs just don't exist anymore. They are still in the Halo universe, and they are still present in the Halo story. They have actually participated in many fights after the Human Covenant War finished, and also it's actually stated in Halo Escalation that there is a battalion of ODSTs on the UNSC Infinity. So the existing lore is there. It's not as if they've been written out of the story. But what we do see is that Halo 4 and 5 preferred to feature Spartan 4s as your allies in missions rather than normal soldiers. I don't like the idea of this because it feels way better to have other Marines and ODSTs around you, and it really feeds into the whole idea of there being a bigger cause. The Bungie games made you feel like you were actually in a war, fighting for humanity, fighting for survival itself. There was always a bigger picture, but it shows you how important your character is at the same time when you see other Marines that are actually inspired by you just being there. It helps to immerse you in the game, and it makes the world feel more realistic and less like a series of missions. So now, let's go through some of the potential reasons for why we haven't seen any ODSTs in Halo Infinite. Now there's a few different reasons for why we may not see any ODSTs in Halo Infinite. The first, and probably the scariest reason, is that because they are veteran UNSC soldiers, the Banished would have seen them as high-value targets, fit to be hunted down and to be treated almost as sport to kill as many as possible. This is the theory that I was talking about earlier, and personally, I think it's probably the most likely. If you remember, the Halo Infinite campaign starts because the pilot finds the Master Chief. During the time that he was lost in space, it basically was an all-out hunting season for the Banished to just destroy as many UNSC soldiers, vehicles, and personnel as they could find. So, because of that, I think that this is a very realistic possibility, and I would actually love the idea of 343 going back and improving areas of the open world to make it more immersive. I would love to see dead ODSTs in certain areas of the map, or even an ODST drop pod graveyard, seeing a whole bunch of empty ODST drop pods in a certain area of the open world. I think that that would send shivers down my spine to discover that, and it would definitely increase the replayability of the game and also make the open world more immersive. I wanted to end today's video by suggesting a couple of ideas of how 343 could add ODSTs to the game. We do know about the potential for campaign DLC and further updates to make our current experience way better. So here's how I would put them in Halo Infinite. First of all, I would actually add them as high-level defenders or even leaders to the forward operating bases that we've captured, because to me, it makes sense for there to be a leader of some kind, similar to how when you are capturing the bases, there are multiple elites or brutes that are leading all of the grunts and jackals. So I think that the same should be present for the ODSTs. I think it would be really fulfilling to see ODSTs gunning it in your Warthog with you and being more accurate and helping you to take down the Banished, and it would be very fulfilling to have UNSC soldiers that are actually taking the fight to the Banished a hell of a lot more than Marines. So to me, I think that would be really cool to see. Another idea that 343 could do is they could actually have a mission similar to Tip of the Spear from Halo Reach and almost have like a all-out battle between the Banished and the UNSC as like a round 2, but with the Chief in action leading the UNSC. And I think that would be really awesome because it would be a callback to all of the Marines that you saved and how everyone is now united behind the Chief, almost like a DLC mission that just makes the entire campaign worthwhile. I think that would be a really cool idea, and despite how divided the Halo community is as a whole, I think we can all agree that ODSTs are really freaking awesome, and I think it's just a bit criminal how they have just not been in the last couple of games, and I think that it would just only benefit Halo Infinite to have these soldiers back in the game. But that's my thoughts on it all. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. It's all part of the great journey. So I've been Kiv, and I'll see you all on the next one.